Hello and welcome to our show live stream where you, the viewer, gets to tell us your thoughts, share your feedback and send us your views. Tonight, we're looking at the rising number of suicide cases among students. What is the reason for it? Are parents, teachers, schools, educational institutions and the government doing enough to stop it? So we ask, student suicides, India's undeclared emergency. Is it really an emergency now and should we be doing more? Call us or record your video queries and WhatsApp to the numbers on your screens. Tweet us your comments at NDTV live stream. Joining us tonight will be several guests. But before that, let me go across to our reporter Sam Daniel, who is in Chennai and is joining us for the very latest on what students and parents feel there, as there have been several suicides in Tamilnadu linked to the NEET exams. And Sam, what are people saying?
By the way, they say there seems to be a suicidal emergency across the country. In Tamil Nadu, it's particularly valid because in the recent past, 2 young students have killed themselves because of their failure in the NEET, the mandatory medical entrance examination. With me, Professor Andrew Sesraj and Vishruti. He's from the Loyola College. Thank you so much for your time. Would you say there is an undeclared suicide emergency across the country?
Across the country and especially in Tamil Nadu, there is an undeclared emergency, not just on students, for example, not only for NEET, the farmers, students, government officers, social activists, policemen. Continuously we are seeing people are not able to put up to the pressure and committing suicide, and there is an undeclared emergency.
As a young student, what will be your answer for the question why?
I think our generation as a whole is a victim to this era of instant gratification, and they're used to having everything they want given to them on a silver platter. So they don't know what it feels like to work hard and face all those challenges along the way, and they are unable to accept the smallest of disappointments and defeat. And also I feel we are in a virtual reality right now, and people don't know how to make real-time connections with people, so they don't know how to talk to people when they are under distress.
Any solutions, Professor?
For the students, it's like, as you said, go out and play. That's what I would say. Meet real people. Win and lose to the real people, number one. And to the government, reduce the pressure on marks, and education should empower. And if it is not empowering, people commit suicide.
Thank you so much for your time. And many would also say it was in that sense the Tamil Nadu government, by the way, had abolished the medical entrance test, which they say led to severe stress among students. Of course, that is debatable.
Absolutely, Sam. Thanks very much indeed for joining us with those views from several parents and otherwise in Tamil Nadu. Well, let me introduce our guest tonight. We'll be joined by Parveen Sheikh, psychologist and counsellor. We'll also be joined by Abha Sehgal, former principal, and also Soha Moitra, who is the regional director North for CRY. And Soha Moitra, before I go to the other guests, let me just ask you, what are your thoughts about the number of suicide deaths that we're seeing? And this is, from studies done, is mostly in the ages between 15 to 29. That certainly says that a lot of those could be because of educational pressure during exam seasons. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, this is indeed an emergency, and we really need to look at it from this age bracket, because this is the age group where these children are starting to get isolated, and there is a growing strong value system of individualism which is growing in terms of the fact that they are being exposed to the social media, and they're resorting to the solutions through this media rather than interacting and communicating with their ecosystem. And this ecosystem, which is so fragile, that they resort to these kind of solutions which actually are not helping them. And the idea here is not to actually focus on the fact that it is an emergency for these children, but unfortunately it's a silent emergency for the people around these children, because we are not acting, whether it's a school or an institution or the parental support back home. Because increasingly we are looking at this trend that children are just not communicating, and adults are not picking up the symptoms.
Right, that's an important point, that parents and teachers are not picking up the symptoms. To talk a little bit more about that, I'm joined by Parveen Sheikh, who's also a psychologist and a counselor. Parveen Sheikh, what has been your experience when you deal with students and and parents? I mean, the fact that India's spending on mental health is only 0.06%, that says a lot about how much we how much importance we give to depression and other such symptoms.
Okay, so in the past there's always been pressure about studies, okay, and what's happening right now is a lot of students, the pressure is increasing, the competition is increasing, and so is the students' expectations of themselves, right? So now it's a era of Instagram updates and Facebook updates. So more than how they will look to their parents, that pressure is already there. Okay, well, if I don't do well, I'm disappointing my parents, but at the same time, I'm also disappointing myself, my peers. So there is where I feel where the support needs to come is not only where the parents talk to the children, there is an open communication there, but also where the students have peer, you have peer mentors, because the peers at this age are the biggest influencers for the students, okay, and the competition is really high. So there is where one area we don't focus on, so that could help the students, because if they're not talking to their parents, they will talk to their peers. That will help them in some way.
Peer pressure certainly, Yeah, peer pressure certainly an important factor in this, and in fact, Uma Sudhir, my colleague, has been reporting about the increased suicides among students in Hyderabad, in Andhra Pradesh as well, and that that very telling image from Hyderabad where a girl actually jumped to her death from the top of a building. And let's listen into what Uma had to say when she spoke to several people there.
Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, Rajasthan, all of these states have the distinction of in fact having the maximum numbers as successful candidates after competitive exams, but they also notoriously report the highest number of student suicides. Even today, after that student death, we have had a recent case in Hyderabad as well, where a student in fact had jumped off a building because she did not get the results that she had expected, or at least others had expected. You are someone who came through a corporate college, about to join an engineering college, but the stress?
It's obviously the same. I can feel what she went through, obviously, but I mean, I don't know if there's a way out of this also. Like, I don't think.
What really happens? I mean, is it something that your parents are expecting too much? Your academically, your college or teachers are putting too much pressure? What really happens?
It's actually more of the faculty in the college. They really want to increase their numbers. At the end of the day, anybody wants that. It's not really my parents. It's basically how they want the numbers, and so they keep stressing us and telling us, oh, the marks matter more than anything else, and so that's all you need to get. And obviously, that's not.
So the joy goes out of learning?
Of course it does. I mean, there is no joy in learning. I mean, I actually try to put a lot of effort my own, apart from college, like through these different learning apps and stuff. But then I put so much effort, I kind of stress myself out. I didn't feel like the college was in any way like supportive in that way. They always sort of motivated only for the fact that there was an exam at the end of the week.
Result.
Yeah, so they're basically result oriented, nothing else. There's no feeling for what a student was going through or anything like that. So
no one cares for children more than parents, we would say, but they are also to blame, isn't it, for the kind of pressure we tend to put?
First of all, suicide factor is not a pleasant one in this society, and I can't blame this corporate world really. That education system is really good according to me, because they are not making all the children to be in one classroom.
All right, so before that, of course, the student was saying it's actually the colleges that want their marks to be really good and want students to do really good. So they're also increasing the pressure on students. And Vaibhav is a caller who's calling us from Nagpur. Vaibhav, go ahead. Why do you feel so many young people are committing suicide?
I think one of the biggest reasons for this is that despite of doling out so much of money in this coaching institutions, schools, colleges, they don't even have psychological assistance for students. They don't have someone who students don't have anyone who they can go to when they feel that they need any psychological help. They feel that they are under depression, they are under some sort of stress. Obviously, they can't go to a third party for psychological assistance. So I think that is a really big issue. that
Right. That's an important point. Right, Weber. Right, Weber. Thanks so much for that. We'll take that point to our guest, but let's. Abha, I just want to introduce you. Abha Sehgal there, the former principal of Sanskriti School, is joining us. And Abha, Weber making that point that over there, and several other students also making the point. There's peer pressure. They don't have anybody to go to when they feel depressed, and the fact that depression is not just treated as a condition, but a very big problem, but nobody really addresses it.
I think the first thing that we need to understand is that the first contact of any child is his parent. So I think at this point of time, parents must understand that they have to develop a relationship with their children so that they can come and talk to them about any problem that they must have. I just heard the caller just now, just before I started talking about the lack of counselors. But I very strongly feel that the most effective counselor is your parent. And a number of times in my career, I have noticed and I've seen that children do not go to their parents to speak. And that is extremely, extremely important, that they should go to their parents, talk about their stresses, talk about their misgivings, talk about what is bothering them.
Right, but Abha, what about the point, the fact that you look at the cutoffs? I mean, that is just inbuilt pressure in any case, where your life could be determined by 0.5%, whether you make it to a good college or not. And that's, that's in the system. It's not just the parents.
So the cutoffs and the good colleges that you're talking about is very, very subjective. What is really good? So this is where the counselor steps in, who is able to tell the students that, look, there is place for everybody. Not everybody will become an IITian. Not everybody will go to AIIMS, but there is space under the sun for everybody. Every child has an ability that can be tapped. And this is the time when we must create that confidence in our young ones. And what I have seen is that we are, instead of creating that confidence, we are eroding that confidence. You see the WhatsApp messages where they keep saying that the youth of today has lost its direction, doesn't know where it's going, they have no values. I don't know why we are doing this youth bashing at this point of time. We must really have faith in our children and create that self-confidence in them.